Hey guys, Chris Camaro here. So today I got into my Grand Prix and tried to start the engine, and of course it was dead. And we've all been there, right? We all know what that's like when it's winter time and there's snow everywhere and it's freezing cold and your battery's on its way out, right? You can see it's pretty much pooched. It's money, a little bit more tight than it usually is with COVID and all that. We're not driving and all the stores are shut down. It's not exactly convenient to go out and change your battery, nor is it cost effective. So I thought I would do a video today to explain to you how you can squeeze some extra life out of your battery for no cost, basically. And this isn't just like, getting you from one start to the next or anything like that. I mean, you can boost your battery if you just need to do that. But this is actually going to buy you some extra time on your battery so that you can actually get through the entire winter hassle-free without having to worry about, your battery. It'll actually rejuvenate it, restore some life. And you're not going to get all of it back. You're not going to get perhaps even 50% of it back. It depends on the condition of the battery, but you're going to get some back, and it's going to be more than enough to get you through the season until it is convenient or cost effective to get a new battery. So let's get started. Oh, by the way, please excuse the Parkinson's disease shitty videography that's going to happen today. It's fucking cold out here, and I'm just having trouble maintaining a steady hand doing this video. Now, if you look around on YouTube for videos on this topic, recovering dead batteries and stuff like that, you're going to find a lot of references to these desulfating, these special chargers that desulfate the battery, these special chargers that you can buy. A lot of them are bullshit. A lot of them don't really do anything. And the ones that do work properly are expensive, and they do work if implemented correctly. However, the method that I'm going to show you today is free, easy, relatively harmless if you take safety precautions. Relatively harmless to your battery, I mean, really. And it takes about a day of your time, and you'll recover enough of the battery's capacity that you can actually start and stop your car several times, not have to worry too much about the car dying for the next few months. So what we're going to do is we're going to accelerate or encourage that reconstitution of the lead sulfate back into the sulfuric acid by sort of being a little bit abusive to the battery. Yes, it's going to be an abusive process, but the gains outweigh the costs, because the battery's already pretty much dead. So recovering it with an aggressive method is really not doing any more harm than driving around with a dead battery. So the first step in this process is to get yourself an ordinary battery charger. A variable charger is going to be necessary, one that you can set the voltage to, or a smart charger that basically you can program it to give you the voltage that you want. Just some sort of an ordinary 12-volt charger is not going to do it. You're going to need something that can target a specific voltage through one way or another, either by manually setting it or by programming it. So let me show you what this setup's going to look like, and we'll get right to it, okay? Okay, so here's how this hack job of a setup actually works. First step is the physical installation, so you're going to want to get your battery charger, which is this thing here. Plug it into your wall socket, get your charging cord that comes out the other end, and clip it onto a set of booster cables, because there's no way in hell you're going to get those tiny little alligator clips onto your car battery. So what I'm doing here is I got a couple of blocks of wood that I'm hooking the jumper cables onto, and the reason for that is to inhibit or prevent or mitigate the possibility of the two jumper cables touching each other when I'm screwing around on the other side, or just through handling. You don't want those things to touch, otherwise you'll fry your car battery, start a fire, bad things will happen. So you want to keep those things away from each other. Do something similar to what I've done to try to keep them apart. Okay, you can just clip the alligator clips onto any part of the jaw like I did here. Just make sure you get a good solid connection there, and then we're gonna go to the car. Okay, and this is just like boosting a car battery. Boosting your car normally. You can just do it the same way you would ordinarily do. You take your red and you hook it onto your red, right? Your red terminal to your red terminal. Your black is your chassis, which is your ground. Clip onto something else that's metal. I like to clip onto this piece right here. Just rub it around a little bit, take off some of that corrosion so you get a nice, good, solid connection there. And then going back to the charger here. Okay. In this case, it's like a computerized charger, so it's a nice charger. Let me just change the mode here. So we want lead acid, which is PB, all right? And normally a car battery has 6 cells in it. That gives you your 12 volts. You're gonna have to, well, if you have a different type of charger, it's going to be totally different than this. You're going to want to try to set it for 16 volts one way or another. But sometimes the charger won't let you do that. And the reason it won't let you do that is because there's too much of a differential between the voltage that you're targeting and the voltage that the battery is currently at. Right now the battery is practically dead, so it's probably like 8 or 9 volts or something. And if you try to get like 18 volts going into a 9 volts, the charger is smart enough to figure out that that's no good and it won't let you do it. So you're probably going to have to scale it back. Scale it back to something that it will do, like maybe this, and then you get your current. You can select how much current you want. Just for this part of it, just pick, a big value so that it doesn't take forever, right? I'm just going to max this thing out here. 6 amps is the biggest it does. And just start it charging, okay? And let's just see what it does. Okay, so it was already like at 11, but the voltage will float back up to pretty much nominal voltage, except when you crank it, it'll drain down pretty far. So it started at 11, now it's going up to 14. So what we want to do is progressively bump this up. So we'll stop it and we'll bump it up to a 7-cell battery. Okay. Or actually it's already at 7-cell. We're going to bump it up to 8-cell. And we're going to let it get a little higher. Okay. Now, ultimately the objective here is you want to get this thing set to 16 volts and you want the battery to sit there for like at least 4 hours, depending on how bad your battery is. After that, you come back and hopefully the battery will have sufficiently desulfated that you should notice a huge improvement in the number of starts that you can consecutively get out of the car. The main symptom that you start off with is that you go for like a 20-minute drive on the highway and then you just pull into your driveway and turn the car off, and then you literally cannot start it 2 seconds later. That's because there's like no capacity left, and what this is doing is restoring all of that lost capacity. So anyway, I can't videotape all of this, it's a long process, but basically you're just going to have to get it to the point where you can get it up to 16 volts by playing with the voltage, monitoring it. Just make sure that the amperage doesn't go too high. You really don't want to do the entire process at a high amperage level. I want to target maybe 2 amps ultimately. So let me just stop the video now. I'll come back and show you sort of when it's kind of set up nice and where I want it to be. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay guys, we're back and I've got the charger right where I want it. It's, as you can see, just hovering right around 16 volts. And it seems to be happy drawing about 1.8 amps, which is approximately what I was going for. Get a compromise between amperage and voltage where you're around 16 volts. I might even drop it another 1/10 of an amp just to get it a little bit under 16, but basically we're there. So we're gonna let this go for like 4 hours. You just want to keep an eye on things, make sure nothing's going crazy on you. As long as everything's all happy, just do it for at least 4 hours. One thing I want to mention, very important, if you are using a variable power supply rather than some sort of an intelligent charger like this thing, if you're using a variable power supply that has to be adjusted manually, make sure that you start the voltage off at something impossibly low, like 6 volts, something that would definitely be lower than the battery voltage. Because what you don't want to happen is you turn the power supply on and any small difference in voltage, if the power supply is higher than the battery, because lead acids have such a low internal resistance, there's going to be a huge inrush current, and it'll probably fry your power supply, or at the very best case scenario, blow a fuse. You don't want to do that. Protect your equipment, protect the your assets. Start it off at 6 volts so that there's literally no current flowing, and then just gradually raise the voltage up, crank it up little by little, and watch the amp meter, watch the amperage that's coming out of your power supply. And if it gets anywhere close to the limit of your power supply, if it's a 10 amp power supply, for example, don't let it get near 10. Keep it around 5 or something like that, and just make small adjustments. Once the amperage falls back down again because the battery is starting to fill up, then you can crank it a little bit more, come out every 5 minutes, adjust it, and keep doing that until you get it to around 16 volts. Eventually, the battery will become so charged or so saturated that it won't want to take current, right? So you won't have a problem increasing the voltage even further. So you won't have any problem getting to 16 volts, but you don't want to do it all at once. You want to make sure that you creep up on it so that you don't damage your power supply. So the battery voltage has risen to 16.18, so I'm gonna drop it down a little bit lower, and I'll probably leave it at 1.7, and we'll just come back in like 4 hours and let it do its thing. Okay, so I'll see you then. While we're waiting for this thing to charge, I just want to explain the next step because it's a little bit more involved. So inside of that car battery, like I said, a bunch of lead plates inside a bath of sulfuric acid. When you charge the battery, the solution, which consists of sulfuric acid and water, is going to boil off the water, so to speak. And so the liquid will be at a certain level, right? And it'll start to go down with, as you use the battery, as the battery goes through its life, because every time you charge it, you're losing a little bit of that water every time. So the level is going to go down. You don't want it to go down too much, because once it starts going down too much, it'll uncover the plates. The plates become exposed, they get sulfated extremely fast, and you're going to lose capacity like crazy, right? So part of the process that we're doing right here, this rejuvenating the battery thing, it involves charging the battery at a very high voltage. And because of the very high voltage, you're losing a lot of water. So we're going to have to compensate for that. And by, the way that we do that is, you can see this EverStart battery, which is pretty common. You can get them at Walmart. You see there's 2 plastic cover things here with writing on them, these 2 plastic hexagonal shaped things. Okay, so you're going to need to get a screwdriver and pry up on those. First of all, you got to get some safety glasses, okay? Cover your eyes so you don't splash acid in your face. And wear some rubber or latex gloves or something. And then you get a screwdriver and pry up on those, and you'll expose the insides. And then you're going to add some, deionized, or distilled water is what I'm looking for, yeah. You're going to add some distilled water into that casing, put a flashlight in there, check to see the level, and put some water in there until you can no longer see the plates, until they're fully submerged. And that's going to restore the water that was lost in the charging process. We'll get to that as soon as the charging is done, but I just wanted to mention it now. Okay, charging is done. It's starting to get dark, so I want to finish this off. Voltage ended up going up a little bit. It was 16.2 or something, and 1.7 amps, so I think that's pretty good. Got a nice good long charge out of it, so I think we're ready to go to the next phase, which is restoring the lost water and the electrolyte. And then once we've added that, we'll crank the car over a few times and see how well it performs. So let's just disconnect this crap first. Get your cables off. Throw that shit away. Alright, so I got my safety glasses here, gloves, and a screwdriver, flathead screwdriver. Okay, put the glasses on. Let me just get my gloves on for a second here. Hang on. Okay, as I said before, on these EverStart batteries, which are quite common, you got these plastic caps here, okay, with the writing on them. You want to get your screwdriver underneath that, start twisting it around, and pop that off, if I can even get in there. Oh yeah, this one's easier. Come on, get off. Okay, alright, that's off. So you can see it's just got like these little, clips on the bottom. It just snaps in place, right? And one thing I forgot was the flashlight. Pardon me while I go get that. Okay guys, I'm back. So I got both plates off. The second one was just a little bit harder to access, so just takes a little bit of two-handed work there. Anyway, looking into the ports here, I don't know if you can really see. I'm going to try to get a good angle here so you can see what I'm talking about, but you can see the plates. But to be honest, it doesn't look like there's really that much of a depth issue. It looks like for the most part we're okay. I'm going to add some water anyway, because I know that I've lost electrolyte, even if they're still submerged. The specific gravity of the battery is probably not what it's supposed to be anymore, especially since I've had this battery for so long. In fact, this is the same battery that I did my previous video on, where I charged it with a battery pack of NiCads. You can see that video if you like. But this battery's rather old, and because I've used it for such a long time and I'm still getting life out of it, I have my suspicions that this thing's going to need some water, even though technically it looks like the plates are submerged. And fill it with some distilled water, right? And it needs to be distilled because any minerals or contaminants will screw up the battery chemistry. So I got some distilled water here. You're just gonna have to trust me. I put some distilled water in here because I didn't want to take like a 2-liter jug outside. It would have been difficult to do that on camera, but yeah, so just put some water in. Okay, so that's that's a little bit of water. I guess it's good enough. Okay, I think that should do it. So again, this is just sort of a ritual. You know that you're doing something that's gonna cause the water to boil off, so you need to replace a little bit of it. And then after that, you just put your caps back. Try not to get too much crap into the ports. There's debris and dirt and shit everywhere. Try not to get that into the electrolyte. Okay guys, moment of truth here. Now obviously we're expecting this thing to start, because I mean, this would be no different than if you were to boost your car, right? We just finished charging it, so of course it's going to start. But I'm going to start it multiple times in a row, and the idea here is that you're just draining the battery and you're never giving the alternator a chance to recharge it, because the alternator will only turn on after a couple seconds. It's part of the safety features of the car or something. So if I turn it off quickly enough, then nothing should go back into the battery. It should be just all battery, right? So let's give it a shot and see how many times we can do this. Just like that, right? Okay, no recovery time. Now, I don't want to burn the starter out, but we'll do it a few times. Okay, that's 3. The constantly turning over, that's the engine. That's not the fact that it's not enough voltage. So what is that, 4? So there's 5 times in a row I started it with no recovery whatsoever, okay? So obviously this method works, and you can do the same thing at home and get like an extra few months out of your battery, basically saving yourself, $130 worth of whatever the heck it costs for a new battery these days. And this is a cheat. Yeah, it's not gonna bring the battery back to full life. You are killing the battery even more in a sense, but you're restoring a percentage of the life of the battery, the capacity of the battery, and therefore you can drive your car, and that's ultimately what matters to us, right? If the battery is junk, then don't worry about it. Just do this, and if you don't get anything out of it, you can still buy a new battery at the end of the day. Nothing lost, right? But nothing ventured, nothing gained, as they say. So if you like this video, please support my channel so I can do more videos like this. I enjoy doing these videos, but they are uncomfortable in this type of weather to do them, and a lot of resources go into it, a lot of time goes into it. So please show your support if you can, and I'll see you in the next video. Talk to you later.